Listen to this episode if you want to hear a real life case study of how Charlotte Trecartin grew her business to $10 million plus. Today, we are welcome from the lovely Charlotte Trecartin. She is a 26-year-old founder and CEO of Char Charms, the viral accessories brand that pioneered an entirely new product category, water bottle charms, featured on Shark Tank and sold in Target, Urban Outfitters, Zoomies, Foot Locker, and Dick's Sporting Goods. Char Charms has grown into a $10 million business in just 4 years. Named to the Forbes 30 Under 30 in the retail and e-commerce category, Charlotte also founded Wall Candy, a Gen Z decor brand that's launched in Blink Art Materials and will soon be available at Walmart and Target. We are going to talk all things retail, social media, e-commerce today. Charlotte, thank you. Welcome to the show. I'm so excited to chat with you.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to talk all things product, business, retail, everything.
Let's do it. So I want to start with Shark Tank. I watched your pitch on Shark Tank. I've watched a lot of Shark Tank. You did something that I don't see many founders do, where you had offers on the table and you made like the incredibly courageous move to say, you know what, that was not aligned with me. What was going through your head in that moment?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, applying for Shark Tank was like a whole thing in of itself. And I applied for Shark Tank 3 times. So like, I really wanted to be on. I really wanted to get a deal. Like, this was something that I was so looking forward to in my entrepreneurial journey, as like, I'm going to do this thing. And so eventually, after 3 tryouts and going to all these open calls and applying online, I get chosen to be on the show. And this is like the craziest thing that's ever happened for me as an entrepreneur. And I was like 24 years old, right? And so I get on the show and you go and film in LA. And I knew in my head how much I was going in and asking for and how high I would go up in terms of like how much equity I would give away. Yeah. And so I had that number in my head, and I also knew, okay, these are the sharks that I definitely would want deals from. Yeah. These are the sharks that I don't see as much value from immediately. Yeah. And so I had that going in, and I mean, just the adrenaline that's pumping through you when the doors open in front of you and you're walking down that aisle, and it truly is exactly how it looks, which is so crazy. But when you get out there, like, it's real life Shark Tank. Like, it is real life. They're asking you actual questions about finances and how you've built this company. I mean, I filmed for a lot longer than
That's the thing, is it's not just the 4 minutes that's aired.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a lot that the viewers of Shark Tank don't see because there's so much more behind the scenes. And so I'm there and they're asking me all these questions. And the first thing that was said on Shark Tank is Kevin O'Leary called this product crap. He's like, this is really crap. And I immediately knew that would be really good for me as a founder on the show, because drama is good. Like, you want that, and you want something crazy to happen on your episode. And so off the bat, I was like secretly inside, I'm like, this is okay, sweet. Like, I'm glad this happened. And then he proceeded to call the product crap 17 more times throughout the 8 minutes that the show aired. And then he gave me an offer. And so it's like, do you really take an offer from someone who called your product crap 17 times?
Well, and Mark Cuban is sitting there telling you that's predatory. Like, don't do that. That's not a good thing for you. And I think you should be so incredibly proud. I literally watched it. I was like, good for her. Like, knowing the numbers that you wanted, you stick to it. Because in the middle of all of that adrenaline coursing through, it's easy to be like, oh, it's fine. It's fine. I'll be okay. But you knew the numbers that you wanted. You knew what 20% equity, 15% equity would mean for you long term. And you had that vision, and you should be incredibly proud of that decision.
Thank you. I definitely knew what I wanted and didn't want. And so when I walked away from Damon John's offer and then Mr. Wonderful's offer, I knew that that was the decision for me. When Lori went out and then Kendra Scott went out and then Mark Cuban went out, I'm like, all right, well, that's going to be it. So I said no and walked away. And I really thought to myself, like, why did I even go on Shark Tank in the first place? Yeah. And it's because I really wanted someone to believe in me, a mentor to kind of guide me to the next stage. I mean, all these folks are almost billionaires. I wanted someone that was at that level of entrepreneurship. And so I actually ended up reaching out to another massive founder that I super duper admire, and he became my mentor, and it worked out. So it was great.
That's such a good point, is because it's not the only place that you can find a mentor. And like, if that's really what you're looking at, clearly, I mean, granted, you had a multi-million dollar business and you were borderline a solo founder. You had just hired your first person on Shark Tank. Yeah. And so you had figured a lot of this stuff out, a lot of the stuff that people don't know. And some of the sharks even said that. They were like, why are you even here? Like, this is working. Like, you're profiting. You have a lot of things working. So if you really just wanted a mentor or somebody that understood, there's a lot of ways that you can find that. Yeah,
absolutely. It worked out in the end. But I honestly, with launching my second company, Wall Candy, I have my eyes on Shark Tank number 2. Like, I definitely want to go again. Yeah. It's a fun experience that I would love to run it back.
Well, and I feel like, again, it's good TV to be like, she was here and Kevin O'Leary called this crap and she said no. And so it's good TV in the long term. So you were on Shark Tank, you had made millions of dollars already, and now you had just hired somebody, but you hadn't really yet built out a team. Tell me a little bit about what the scaling process to 7 figures looked like as a solo founder.
Oh my gosh, so much. When we started the brand in 2021, it was just me. I always say we because it's always a we with whoever's working with me. But then when we started, it was just me and I was posting on TikTok 3 times a day. And like that was the marketing. And it worked because people liked me. And they started to form like a connection with me and my content. And I would go on TikTok lives. There were very regular customers that would shop every single drop. And so that was awesome for us in the beginning. And I was in college. By the time I graduated, we were doing $10,000 to $20,000 a month. I'm like, okay, this is cool. Like I had high school kids from that lived down the street coming over and working in my dad's basement. They were packing orders or putting together like pieces of the products. I really, in that early phase, tried to focus solely on the marketing and selling. And that's what I tell young founders is like, your number one job is to sell. Like, I don't care at all about what your business card looks like or what your logo looks like. You need to sell the product. And so that's what I did. So I made TikTok after TikTok, and it was definitely worth it because we started to become like the water bottle accessory company. Yeah. And that's what we were. And people knew us as that. And we had plenty of viral videos. And so that helped us get some notoriety once Stanley really came to market as a water bottle because we launched and it was like Hydro Flasks and Starbucks tumbler.
Oh, so you were before the Stanley craze.
We were before Stanley. Stanley was not a thing. I had not even bought a Stanley. This was a random idea that I had. During COVID, I was staring at my Simple Modern water bottle that I bought on Amazon. I'm like, it'd be so cool if you could accessorize it. And that idea just sparked the whole thing. And so there was no Stanleys for this. There was not even a water bottle accessory on the market. Like the only thing you could buy on Etsy was like a drinking tracker to track how many cups of water you drink. Now you go on Etsy and there's thousands of listings of water bottle accessories. So we really changed the whole market. But anyways, so Stanley blew up in late 2023. Urban Outfitters reached out to us. They saw our TikToks and that was our first retail launch. And so throughout this whole thing, I'm still posting on TikTok, talking about everything that we're doing. And that really carried us in through Urban Outfitters and then to Dick's Sporting Goods and then through Target. But by the time we were launching at Dick's and Target, I couldn't do the TikTok anymore. I was so busy operationally and supply chain product development wise. So then I hired my marketing manager. And so she was my second hire. She had pretty much the role of taking over the TikTok and Instagram. And so she did a great job growing it and doing the graphics and photo shoots and everything. And so that was extremely beneficial to us. Also, this whole time we've never run ads. Like we've run ads, we've tried ads, but that has never been the core of our business. For some reason, it just never worked for me. And I definitely think in the future we can revisit it, but we've been mostly pretty much all organic this entire time. So yeah, I mean, we're just organic on social media. We have been. And last month I hired my second marketing person and she's our content creator. Her name's Katie. She's the pink hair girl you'll see on our channel. And
I love it.
She's our face of the brand. And if you go on the page, she looks like the person that's behind the brand. And she's posting YouTube videos. And it's actually funny because the two of them, our marketing manager and our content creator, they live together in New York now. So it's like CharCharms content house. I am
love that.
Love it. It's like the best thing that's ever happened. I never saw that coming. Like that was not something that I could have planned that we would have a CharCharms content house, but I love everything about it.
Well, how fun too. Like you created that relationship and now they're living together and I'm sure their house is quite the content house there too.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really proud of it. And I don't know what the next phase of CharCharms marketing will be, but I do think that it's time for us to kind of kick it up a notch.
Yeah. Ooh, I like that.
Yeah. It's been very like, okay, cool. We're a brand that posts a lot, but now it's like, I want to be a brand with strategy behind the marketing. and really thinking bigger picture of like, how do we actually make waves where people are talking about this and what we're doing?
Yes. Yeah. Ooh, that's really great because it really does. When it comes from an organic side, you can build pretty far from an organic side. And then you're like, all right, now you have such proof of concept, so much proof of concept that if you kick it up a notch from a strategy perspective, that we can really easily take the revenue that you're already making and drastically increase it. You have everything streamlined. You have the team that can do it. Your marketing is streamlined now. Now it's like, all right, where do we expand into?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're talking to some different people to hopefully come and either consult or just kind of be on the strategy side. I definitely need help with that because I can't do that alone.
For sure. It's a niche spot within the world too of business, is you need somebody to really understand that. It makes a lot of sense. So you've built out a team now, you have your sales going, you've kind of started this other business. You're looking at all of these decisions that you've made in the past. If you were to go back to when you were starting, is there anything that you would really change, either pre-Shark Tank, post-Shark Tank, but just in the scaling process? Where do you think are some of the major mistakes that you made?
There's nothing that comes to mind to me that feels like it was a quote unquote mistake. Everything that I've done, even if it was a quote unquote failure, I learned so much.
Yeah.
And I know that's so cliche.
No.
Remember your failures and your mistakes. I think the only thing maybe was, and I'm doing it now, building my personal brand, but it's hard to even say this retrospectively because like I didn't have the time, but I'm building my personal brand now, talking about how I'm building my business and the behind the scenes of things. And I guess it would have been cool to post a little bit more often in the first couple years of building this business.
Personally.
But on the personal side of things. But now I have the resources to be able to have someone help me. Like I didn't have money to be able to hire someone to do that.
Yeah. Something that's really important for the listeners as well is I talk to a lot of business owners and a lot of them are like, I don't want to be the face of my brand. Like, I don't really want to have a personal brand. Like, I didn't build this business to be an influencer. I hear that often. It's like, I didn't build this business to need to be an influencer. I don't really want it. But I also hear from successful founders, many people also believe that, but they said it's just the avenue. It was the easiest thing. It was the resources that I had at the time is I could use my face and I could build the business to what I have. And now you did that. You were posting 3 days a week. You were the face. You were on the Instagram lives, the TikTok lives, really selling. And now you've been able to hire a face of the brand that you're able to kind of take a step back there. And I think that's a really important takeaway for people is even though right now you kind of need to get gritty, it might not be something you want to do. It doesn't have to be forever. If it does start to work for you, you can start to have some of these other people that you hire. If it's not you, it has to be somebody.
Right. And I even think though, like building a personal brand as the founder yourself, like it doesn't have to be on Instagram making reels. Like you could just be posting on LinkedIn every single day about your business and how you're winning.
Substack, whatever. Yeah.
Really just think it helps you build the connections to the network that will help you grow and give you more opportunities because opportunities come through other people. And if you're not putting yourself out there to meet those other people, I definitely think that it helps to have that network. And the best way to do that is by posting in one way or another.
100%. And I think business at a certain point in the point of business that you're at, it is a relationships game. Who do you know? Who can you call when you have this question? Who can you call when you have this problem, when you need this connection? I've found that in my business is like, if I know somebody that knows somebody, it's a lot easier for me to be like, hey, could you just connect us rather than trying to get directly to that person because they're getting reached out to all the time. So that connection game is where they can remember you when they hear somebody say that they need somebody in this category or that thing or for PR or whatever it is having that wider net is always going to be helpful.
Yeah, absolutely.
If it's okay, I'm going to interrupt this podcast for 30 quick seconds to let you know about the Founders Cafe. It is my completely free podcast community where you can gain access to bonus resources, gain access to me and free coaching calls, as well as build a network of other business owners just like yourself. Business ownership is a lonely game, and we might as well build community, build a network, and have a space to collaborate. We can bring this conversation and all the other conversations we have on this podcast over into this free podcast community and make this a two-way street. I would love to answer your questions there, connect with you, see you on our next free coaching call. Click the link in the show notes and you'll find the link there. So you did start with D2C and then you expanded into retail. You were in Urban Outfitters, all of that. Sounds like that's where your next direction is with Wall Candy as well. When we look at retail, what do you find from a retail versus direct to consumer perspective? What is your strategic play of getting into retail if you have this direct to consumer community that you're selling to?
Totally. When you launch in retail, and if this is something that the founders out there are listening to and they're thinking, yes, I really want to launch in retail, the first step is figuring out where you're going to launch and if it makes sense for your product to launch there. So I would recommend going into every single store that you have ambitions to launch in and take your product with you and place it in all the different areas that you think would make sense. Analyze, does the packaging make sense here with the format that is everything else on shelves, but your one product is pegged? Not going to work. If everything is everything else on pegs, but your product can't be on pegs, better figure out different packaging. So I think the first thing is like, truly, is there a format fit, both in packaging and also just in the product fit within their category? And then you even zoom out even more and you're like, okay, if I look at my product in this category of, I don't know, let's say pasta noodles, does mine look like everyone else's? Like, what is the differentiator between ours and theirs? And it can truly be something different. Like your packaging is just bolder or whatever. There's actually a call out that's different, or maybe there's a story behind it that none of the other brands have. And so there has to be some sort of angle that gives you that differentiation from the other brands on the shelf. That's number two. And then number three, of course, is pricing. I know there are a lot of brands out there that are these premium, cool, whatever candles. And I don't know if you're going to have luck at a Walmart selling a $200 candle versus maybe an Anthropology or something even more kind of high end. So I think pricing is a big part of this too. And then you have to think about who's the consumer in their store, and does that consumer match who your potential consumer is? And are you talking to that person? And of course, in a mass market setting, there's a lot of people walking through there. More likely than not, you'll have a consumer that matches your consumer. But there are stores that lean more male. There are stores that lean more female versus older and younger. And so I think overall, step one is figuring out, like, strategically, what stores do you make the most sense in? And then second to that is obviously trying to make the contact to the buyers. And this is, I think, where most brands struggle. I think the reason a lot of brands struggle with this is because they haven't done the first part of the work. And they're just like, I just want to be, in all these stores, but they haven't thought through the packaging and does it make sense? And where in the store, will they want to put a pet product where they have the smallest pet category? I think if you can do step number one, outreach, I do through LinkedIn. So I love LinkedIn for outreach. And then of course, like, you have the opportunity to go through sales reps. So there's a lot of rep groups out there. I think it's honestly as simple as searching like Walmart rep groups. And then you just interview a bunch of them and see who you like, see who has connections in the categories that you want to be in. Because some rep groups, they are stronger in certain areas than others. So a rep group might be like all food and bev, or a rep group might be all hard goods. You can choose a rep group. You can try to do the outreach yourself. In general, I've seen rep groups take 5% just commission on sales. Some of them will take a retainer if they're either really, really big, or maybe they're not sure of your product. And so they'll take a retainer to see how it does initially. And I think that's very normal, honestly. Once you're in and you make that sale, it's a matter of, you have to sell through now. And that's the hardest part. Everything else is also hard, but once you actually get the product in, it's okay, how do we make sure we actually sell this product? Because a lot of brands can suffer with the chargebacks of returns.
When something doesn't sell, it can be catastrophic.
Which is unfortunate. So having really good margins helps. And making sure that you can go in and, like, let's say everything did clearance. I'm not assuming not everything is going to clearance off, but can you afford it if 50% of the products don't sell and you're going to have to share the cost of the clearance?
And where that is so helpful is having that direct-to-consumer community that you can initially kind of have a launch of, hey, we're launching in Target, go buy it, go check it out, go in stores. And I find that brands that don't take the time to build some of that community prior to can really struggle when it comes to getting into a retail store, because they don't have that, like, initial fuel behind the fire of the launch within retail.
Totally. But it also doesn't have to be like, you don't have to have a brand that's like super driven by marketing. Like, you can have a product that is an elastic demand product. Like, you can try to sell a product that is just like, people are buying this no matter what. I think that that's also beneficial to kind of look at it from both ways.
Yeah, that's interesting. You said something as well kind of earlier that I have always said to people is people that say, I want to start a business, but I don't know what. And I always say, go walk around a store and find a category that's boring as hell and say, I'm going to make something that's a little bit more fun. You see this with like the Good Girl pickles. Like they did that. Pickle category was boring. So they came into it and said, we're going to make this fun. I feel like we're seeing this a lot in the food category. The Graza olive oil, like all of that is really just repackaged products that look really fun and stand out on shelves. And a lot of people are basically, they're skipping that marketing and just going to, how can I stand out from a bottom of funnel in the stores? Ooh, this looks really fun. That's what I want to buy.
Totally. Yeah. And that's what we do with wall candy, because the current option is command hooks, 3M's brand, and you walk in and it's purely utility. And I love it. And it's great. And I have bought so many command hooks. I used command strips literally last night. They're a great brand. And I've walked that aisle every single time I walk into a Target or Walmart for the last 3 years, knowing that I want to launch something there. And so like it is in my heart and passion that I had to do something.
Yeah.
And so wall candy was really the baby of that. And now that we're finally getting to launch, and we're figuring out what does the marketing look like for this, which is ever evolving, and what does the branding look like for this. But we take a lot of inspiration from like Starface, Crumble Cookie, like very colorful, very personality driven, like super Gen Alpha. And I think it'll be a fun take. So we'll see how it goes.
That's so fun. What did you know that you're like, okay, I'm ready to start a second brand?
Time and money. CharCharms, there was a point in CharCharms last year where I'm like, okay, I definitely feel like I can start working on something else right now. Like CharCharms is moving and grooving. Our team is kind of set. They're working on everything that they need to work on. And I was like realizing I was just working like 9 to 5 on CharCharms. I'm like, this is kind of nice. I can work on a side project right now.
I'm getting a little bored working normal hours.
Yeah, exactly. I think it was the fact that I had just a little bit more time in my schedule. And also CharCharms provided the money to be able to pay for wall candy. We've put money into it. I mean, I spent money on the name for it to get a name. I've spent money on the logo and initial branding and packaging. So it has not been a cheap endeavor. Like CharCharms, I did everything myself. Everything, like literally from the logo to the packaging, I did everything on Canva. For wall candy, I'm like, all right, let's start a couple steps ahead of where we started with CharCharms.
Yeah. Well, and it's fun now that you have the resources to do that. And it'll be interesting to see. And this is what I always say about businesses. Once you have one that you kind of understand the game plan, you build the resource for it. Your second one is 10 times easier to get to the level that your first one is at, because you understand the game plan, you have more relationships, you know what's needed, you've kind of tested it. Every brand is slightly different, but it'll be so cool for you to say, okay, now I know what I need, what I don't need, what I'm going to focus on. And you know the areas that you can now invest into making things feel a little bit more, I don't know, you can get specialists and premium from the start.
Yeah, definitely. I'm excited to see what happens with it. It's going to be a cool brand.
Yeah. When did you start the production, the launch, all of that of wall candy?
Last spring, like April, May. And it was very slow at the beginning because we were getting a lot of samples. And really, we were trying to figure out how are we going to get this pattern on the hook. Yeah. And so for listeners out there, this is a competitor to command hooks. So that instead of it being a white hook that you stick on to any wall, it's like a cute patterned hook. So it's whatever, cow print, cheetah print, florals.
Yeah.
We use the same 3M adhesive. So it's the same exact 3M strips. And it's just the hook that's different. And then the packaging that's more fun. So it's great for the kids, preteens, teens, college girls, moms that are buying for those different kids in their lives. And so then we launched, I believe it was August or September of last year, 2024. And a month after we launched, we got the golden ticket at Walmart at their open call. And so now we'll be launching at Walmart for back to college in 2026.
That's awesome. And you said Walmart and Target, correct?
Yeah, so Target will be a slightly smaller launch. Walmart is the one that is like the one that we're really pushing for.
That's awesome. That's so much fun. So again, you're going for the retail play there. You are marketing in the meantime. And I think it's really interesting because I see the behind the scenes of a lot of businesses, and the retail space is one that is a very different model than direct to consumer, because it is like sometimes you can skip the marketing and sometimes it does take the marketing in order to sell through in retail that way as well. Is there a reason that you went right to retail for your new brand as well? Is it for the purchase orders, you have the relationships there, you now have the relationships basically, or what made you choose, okay, let's go right into retail?
It's a matter of like, how is command sold? Like, how are people buying command hooks? When you need a hook, you're putting it on your list to go grab at Target or Walmart, or you're buying it on Amazon because you need it immediately. So I just looked at the shopping patterns. No one's buying command hooks on their website. You can't even buy them on their website. And so that just signaled to me like how we need to sell this.
Yes. Something that I hear you repeating that is really smart is that your customer first. You look at what the customer is doing. You're looking how the customer might be shopping. You're looking for what the customer might need. And you're just plugging the gap and being there and being in front of wherever they are.
Definitely. Yeah, it's also a very eye-catching product in a very boring aisle when you do walk that aisle. So I think that impulse buy will be easier when you are seeing that in stores. And Amazon is going to be interesting because we've never done Amazon for Char Charms. We have like 2 products on there and it's not our focus at all. So for Wall Candy, it's just a product that I think makes more sense on Amazon. We've hired an agency to do that and to run the ads for it. Yeah, so all of this is a big experiment, truly. Like everything that I do, I'm like, I'm learning or it's going to succeed either way. So that's just how I look at everything that I do.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to do it. As a founder, you have to be able to do that. And knowing that when I asked you if you had any mistakes, you're like, not really, because I learned from it. And I think that's a really good mindset to go into business with, is a lot of it is, let's cast this wide net, let's test it, let's see what's going on, let's see what's working. Okay, this is working, let's chase that category. This is working, let's try this, let's try that. Shutting down things that aren't working and then kind of doubling down on the things that are.
Yeah, definitely. The founder of Kitsch, their co-founder is a husband and wife, and they're one of my favorite brands in retail. I mean, if you see them in retail, they have like 80 SKUs on a Target
so
shelf.
many.
So crazy. Like I look at them and I'm like, I love you. Like you're crazy, amazing.
Yeah.
But I spoke with her and she was like, when we were growing Kitsch, we just launched a lot of different stuff and see what works. And so like that's the advice that I get from multi-$100 million founders that are launching in retail, and they're just testing and doing a lot and then paring it down and trying more things.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting because I remember seeing Kitsch early. I forget what they had first. I think it was like shampoo bars was where I knew them first. And then all of a sudden they were making clips and other categories and other hair accessories. And I remember saying, is this the same brand? But it was because they saw what the consumers wanted, and then they narrowed down, they expanded in their product suite. And you're right. They do have literally 80 SKUs in Ulta. They have like almost a whole section just for Kitsch. It's wild.
It's very impressive. I think they're a great brand.
Yes. Charlotte, what are your focuses for 2026? Kind of looking forward, you have these 2 brands, one that you said you're kind of ready to expand, take it to the next level, the other one that's just getting started out. What are your major focuses looking forward?
More retail. That's my number one goal. So my whole team is centered around that. They know that that's our goal for the year. More programs, more products, more retailers, more opportunities, more collabs, more licenses. 2024 was a huge pivot year for us. 2025 was a let's get our feet underneath us year. 2026 is we are going to put our hand into every bucket that we can to try new things and see what works so that we can set ourselves up for a crazy 2027. And so that's how I'm looking at this year. And then aside from that, I'm very bullish on building my own personal brand. I have a Substack called the Gen CEO Club, and I talk about building business as a Gen CEO and someone that's young, and how I'm building a business differently than other people would build businesses. So I'm very excited to be able to build a community for myself and hopefully inspire people and help other founders. And I love talking to founders, so it's definitely a passion of mine.
Yeah. Oh, Charlotte, where can people find you? Where can they find all of your Gen CEO, your Wall Candy, all of that? Where can everybody find you to see all of that?
So connect with me on LinkedIn. You can search Charlotte Trecartin. You can find me on Instagram and TikTok at Char Charms. CharCharms is everywhere, just at CharCharms, and Wall Candy is everywhere at Wall Candy Shop. And you can search those on Google, on Amazon, and you can find CharCharms in stores at Targets.
Woo, I love it. Charlotte, thanks so much for being here. This has been lovely.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Business Growth Podcast. We put out new episodes every Tuesday and Friday. So if you love this one, make sure that you're subscribed so you never miss a conversation. If you want more conversations with me and other business owners, make sure that you join our completely free podcast community, the Founders Cafe. The link is in the show notes. You can get bonus resources, access to free coaching calls, as well as connect with like-minded business owners like yourself. Make sure that you rate and review the podcast 5 stars, share it with a friend to keep those conversations moving, and come back every Tuesday and Friday. I'll see you there.